Welcome everyone for another episode of the Good Morning News Podcast. I'm Gelfi, here with me, Bear Hunter, Hero, and Diego. And we're here to bring you the best of the best that's happened last week, what's going on next week, and everything else between. How you doing, Hero, Bear Hunter, and Diego?
Hey, guys. I tell you what, Gelfi, you can make a transition like nobody else. That was epic. Happy to be here this morning. Cheers.
Have you guys had your coffee yet?
Yeah, it's afternoon for me, actually. I just had lunch.
So let's talk. This is really important stuff, guys. Let's talk about coffee for a minute. So a publisher I know drinks 2 pots of coffee a day, correct, sir?
Yes, yeah, that's about right. That math adds up.
I have about 4 double espressos a day, sometimes in lattes, sometimes in Americanos, sometimes straight down the chute. I stopped drinking coffee sometime around 4 p.m. and thinking about changing that. What about Gelfi and Diego?
You drink that fancy stuff. I drink newsroom coffee.
Yeah,
me
fancy.
too.
Black is nice.
Just plain and black coffee in the morning, sometimes during the afternoon. Just a small cup. Yeah, it's all I have.
Balanced.
I take 10 ounces in the morning and about 10 to 20 ounces in the afternoon.
I love how you do it by ounces. That's awesome.
What Diego left out is that his little shot in the morning has about an ounce of cocaine in it. So,
So I saw that package that you packed up the publisher. I'm going, yeah.
Did you see that?
Stop at the border.
It was not intentional, I just had that kind of brown tape at home. And I said, okay, let me send a picture to Pub. I'm gonna send him the coffee. He's never gonna get it. It looks like a pack of drugs. No?
It looks just like every pack of drugs in every movie I've seen with packs of drugs.
Exactly.
It was so funny. I'm going coffee. I'm like, publisher's like, let me ask you a question, a legal question. I'm like, huh? He goes, what about commodities? I go, like what? He goes, coffee. I go, huh? And I'm like, what's in the coffee? It was amazing. Like the picture, it literally made my afternoon yesterday. I cracked up I'm still laughing about it. Like it's too funny.
And I'm gonna get him a hard time because when the coffee that I bought to send him is the original coffee, so it's in grains. You have to, I don't know how to say it in English, the process. Right. Okay. Yeah. You have to do that. And the guy at the coffee shop offered me to do, oh no, I'm already sending him some suspicious package. If it's open, he never gonna get it. No, keep it closed, like the original closing. No, he can handle it later. Don't worry.
Are you going to put in the mail and send it to him, or are you going to bring it over to him?
Can you believe that? I'm putting in the mail and I'm afraid of doing that. But,
the DEA is going to hand deliver it to my house. It's going to be amazing.
Or they're going to hand deliver you to federal prison,
Deliver to your wife. Hey, lady, this is the coffee lady. So where is your husband? He's coming with us.
Exactly. He
has some explanations to give us.
Sure, it's coffee. Yeah. Miss Katrina, our lovely editor, is sending me some children's toys from a native cartoon in her country called Bluey, which my kids have found and love. So she is shipping next week some things across the ocean, which I'm excited about. So she also is dealing with customs issues, although I got a feeling hers is going to get through. I don't know about you, man.
What an amazing community we are building over here. We're now sending people mails and stuff through mails. Like we just met over the internet and now we're kind of friends.
I think we're, totally.
Exactly.
It speaks to a level of trust within the community, doesn't it?
Right? Yeah.
No, it is. I still feel bad for Nitra. She wanted my address to send me what I realized later on was something else. And sometimes she's like, she jokes around. So like, I didn't know if she was really serious or not, but it turns out she was because I saw that she sent something to genetics. And so I've been meaning to contact Nitra and say, all right, man, so you weren't effing around. Let's, here, I'll dox myself for you, my monster friend,
Yeah, she sent me. I didn't get it yet, but it's a postcard. Right. And she told us about it on the interview Gelfi and I did for the Banks Brazil podcast. And it's a kind of pass to go to a kind of vacation house that she's buying. It's really nice.
I know. I hear her talk about her monster friend like home theory, right?
Yeah, something like that. And I'm excited because I'm afraid that the post office lost my pass. I didn't get it yet.
Well, I asked her, she was like, "Oh, it's too late now, got a friend." Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm happy I know some good lawyer. They can they can handle that for me with the post office. I just lost a chance.
This is the beauty of having a community. If you need coffee from Brazil, you find it. If you need a developer, you find it. If you need a lawyer, you'll find it as well. That's the beauty of the community. Yeah.
The podcast hoster, cheerleader or promoter or whatever you guys call me.
All of the above. I mean, you are like, ETH maxi extraordinaire validator, right? You're also, we can call you Vlad, the validator. It doesn't fit very well.
It was funny. I was talking to a lot of people on Ethereum Rio, and doing the thing that I do, talking good things about Ethereum, talking bad shit about Cardano and this kind of bullshit we have around. And they were saying, "No, I don't believe that." And I just showing, "Hey, so this is me in a picture." And it was a picture of a kind of graphic of my portfolio. It's pretty much 80% ETH, 20% Bitcoin, something like that. Hey, yeah, I put my money where my mouth is. So I'm this guy.
What do you guys really think? What do you guys really think it's gonna happen? Like there's so much projects, so much blockchains out there. What do you guys really think is going to happen? To be honest,
the flipping. We're gonna see the flipping sooner than later, and probably some other blockchains. The new Ethereum killers that we see every couple of months, a new one. They're gonna get some steam because they're gonna be cheaper and they're gonna be faster. But suddenly people realize they're not gonna be secure. So yeah, every time they're gonna be the second, the third, the fourth Ethereum killers around there. So today is Avalanche or Cardano or Solana, and next year probably we're gonna hear some new names, but the history pretty much gonna keep the same, in my opinion.
But do you think they're going to die, or all these blockchains and cryptos are going to exist?
They never die. They never die. Just like Ethereum Classic, Nano, which one? Ripple. People just forget it. People just don't care anymore. Just the bots that we see on Twitter.
I think you're kind of right. Yeah. Like, you're gonna so an analogy for me would be to think about cars, right? And you have like luxury cars, and then you have sort of nice cars, mid-range cars, and blah blah blah, right? And so I think you're going to see the same thing with blockchain, sort of in the end, in some ways, in terms of how we perceive them in terms of like value, right? And so, Bitcoin is kind of its own class of product still, in my mind. Ethereum would sort of be, your fancy Cadillacs and stuff. You're going to have a lot of mid-range cars that do the job pretty good, and they're a little cheaper. And they're going to probably be a little faster, right? But a little less secure, maybe. And then you're going to have a bunch of shitty chains at the bottom that don't work so well, but they're niche, right? Like you're going to have niche, that are they're used for gaming, right, or something, or home security or logistics or like whatever people end up doing, right? You're going to have a ton of private blockchains too. Endless amounts of private blockchains that you'll ever see. And then there's going to be like, well, what happens? So this is a thing I think about sometimes, right? Is like, what happens to public-private keys or quite frankly, like passphrases, once you have quantum computing, right? And then what does a quantum computing secured blockchain look like, and is that a thing that's possible? And I haven't thought it. I'm not smart enough on that stuff to have a real answer, right? Other than I think it is, but I couldn't tell you how or why. So I don't know, Ethereum is like what you're always going to use, right? It might, but I don't know. I think, but I don't know. Like personally, I might own a bunch of other L1s, but I don't use them, right? I use Ethereum and I use Poly, and that's essentially it, unless it's super rando, like I want to get on the Palm network to mint some Matrix NFTs, which I never did, but I connected to the network, right? or layer two.
I have a point on this, and I try not to be judgmental because I hold 1% of my portfolio in Flow. That it's just marketing. No, I mean,
Well,
it's
like an speculative investment, right?
And everything that I'm talking about, okay, Gelfi, I'm already gonna say that it's not financial advice. I'm not an advisor. I pretty much don't understand what I'm talking about. Just playing around with my money. But I bought Flow. It was a great investment, but it's a bad technology. I wouldn't say to anybody buy that, but I'm buying. So I always remember that guy. I can't remember his name, but he said something like, hey, you can make money even with shit coins, like Shiba, ADA. And yeah, if it's in the space to make money, go ahead. I don't judge you. But when we talk
mercenary, yeah, you're gonna make a lot of money.
I can say mercenary because I jumped in lots of ICOs. I made some money. And I all the chance that I got to make money with that, I put my money back in Bitcoin and in Ethereum, and I did that. I cannot judge. I don't want to be how is that the word? Hypocrite.
Yeah, that's gonna happen for a while, but it's in the long term. It's not really sustainable. There's gonna be a time where there are no ICOs anymore. Like there's gonna be one ICO, but they're not going to raise that much of money. It's not, you're not going to be rich with one token and blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
I cannot agree. I can agree with that because there's a guy, Anthony Cicano. He always says that the new people that are arriving in this space, the people that are building the new technology here, they see the guys who were in 2012, 2014, they were boomers, they already make lots of money with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and this kind of coins. And now they are creating new technologies. So now we have options. Now we have index. Now we have DeFi 2.0. Nobody was talking about that 6 months ago. Nobody was talking about, pretty much nobody was talking about NFTs 1 year or two, a couple of years ago. So these people that arrive and pretty young people, bright minds that get into this space now, they see the people that have been here for 10 years like boomers. And they already made a lot of money. They don't need to improve anything anymore. So the new minds are creating new stuff every time. So new opportunities are going to be happening every time in this space.
I totally agree. Yeah. Publisher, you're mighty quiet.
Yeah, he's probably having some coffee.
He's right.
No, I was sitting here taking it all in, guys. Just taking it all in, listening to everyone's thoughts. Obviously, I'm going to be a little biased on what I think our future is here. I would say the future has been prophesized, right? The roadmap has been laid out, and we have a modular future ahead of us. And that's going to be scaling out Ethereum with layer 2 solutions. And we're getting there, right? We're slowly but surely we're getting there.
We're getting there, but it doesn't work great yet, right? Kind of. We all use it. I think I use 4 fairly actively, right?
When you say it doesn't work right, I would say it works. We're working exactly as intended at this moment, right? Sure. We're not quite there yet on scaling out the ecosystem, and I think that's really the point that you're getting at is that we don't have all the usual suspects quite yet on these platforms. The biggest one being OpenSea for our purposes here at Good Morning News. I've always thought in my mind that the second we get OpenSea support on these layer 2s is when Good Morning News moves to these layer 2s, right? That's moving day for us. I think we're getting there. It has been, I'll say it's been a much slower process than I would have thought, right? These things came online so quickly that it felt like the ecosystem growth was just right around the corner. Maybe that coincides with the little bear market that we found ourselves in over the past few months. But
here's an interesting question for you. Do you not consider Polygon to be a layer 2 then?
Not at all. Polygon's a sidechain.
So
and kind of a bad one at that.
Yeah. Layer 2 then?
This is a famous misunderstanding that people make.
Yeah,
Polygon is going to be a layer 2 eventually. That's what
Polygon,
they say.
So Polygon's an umbrella, right? Polygon is a team of developers that has a whole suite of blockchain solutions that they put out, right? They do have a roll-up solution out there. What is that? Hermes or whatever they call it?
Yeah, they bought that that was the first token swap last summer, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they have these solutions. What we're really talking about here is the MATIC network, right? The old proof of stake MATIC network that they've rebranded to the Polygon chain. That's what we're on, and that's what we're talking about. And the MATIC network is a side chain. It has a very centralized, very hard to run set of validators, right? You got to have pretty fancy computers to run a validator for that network. So it's very much, you could put it in the same category as Binance Smart Chain, but a little better because they're built, their proof of stake is directly on top of Ethereum, right? Their entire consensus network is built on top of the Ethereum chain. So in that aspect, it's more decentralized and at least better than what Binance has to offer.
Well, hold on. I thought you were I thought you were just educating me about BSC being a sidechain of Ethereum, but that's not what you're saying. I mean, that's not true.
Technically, BSC
really?
is a sidechain to Ethereum. It's an EVM. Yeah,
it's a clone. They clone Ethereum, and everything that you see on Ethereum,
I never knew that. There. That's so interesting. So, but they don't. I mean, validate.
All of these. At the end of the day, all of these are Ethereum forks, dude.
Avalanche is also a clone of Ethereum. Yeah, the gas.
I thought you were telling me though that BSC was actually like, validating on the Ethereum mainnet, which seemed not.
No, see that
seemed very confusing. Yeah. But
that's your biggest difference. Their consensus mechanism is on their own chain, the Binance chain, right? So, it's very, very.
But what you're saying though is the Binance chain, Avalanche, etc. are. What would you just call it a fork? You called it a clone, but is there a difference? Forks. Yeah, they're forks, right? Yeah.
They're forks that have swapped out for their own consensus mechanisms, right? Avalanche went with this weird sharding proof of stake type of consensus mechanism, and Binance, of course, just went with their version of proof of stake, which is not the same proof of stake that we'll be getting with Ethereum. They're on that whole delegated proof of stake model.
It's interesting.
I believe I could be wrong about that, actually.
Which is kind of like what Cardano does, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's really, I've never come across like a piece of really good literature that differentiates all these different things, right? Very well. I think someone needs to write that up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, your ETH maximalists are always out there pounding the table saying that these are all just forks of Ethereum and what the hell is everyone doing wasting their time? And I couldn't agree with that more. But that said, though, there are some innovations happening right there. And I hate to give Solana any credit at all. But, if we're being honest, there is an innovation there. It's just unfortunate that, their validating system is even more hard to do than even the Polygon network, right? The supercomputer you need to run a validator for Solana is obscene. But there is innovation there, right? And, whether it works or not, it's debatable. We've seen it fail a number of times now, but I don't know. I think it's good to have these other chains out there that are doing the experimentation that maybe Ethereum can learn from. But at the end of the day, your innovation is really always going to happen on Ethereum, I think, because that's where the developers are. And I think that's the most important part of this conversation when we're talking about which of these chains are going to be successful into the future. And to me, there's really only one ecosystem that's completely open source, that you have a group of dedicated, passionate developers that are always going to be working on it, no matter what, right? These people aren't going anywhere. This is their livelihood. They eat, breathe, and sleep Ethereum. And you don't have that with any other chain, at least not that I can see, right? With every other chain, what you have are paid employees working to build a network that's bought and paid for by X company, right? FTX or whatever. Insert your exchange of choice there. I mean, in that could be sustainable as for a business model, for these companies. But I don't think you'll ever see any real innovation happening there that Ethereum hasn't already paved the way and trailblazed, if that makes sense.
And let me ask you something. What's your opinion from the technical perspective, since you're dev, and of that kind of fight that people between like the Ethereum developers and the Avax developers, what they are talking about, that Avalanche would be a fork or a copy of Get Eat. Do you agree? Do you know this conversation? Do you agree with that? What's your opinion, if you have one?
So if I'm understanding your question correctly, I'm not real sure what the debate that you're talking about there is. I'm assuming that it's just the debate over whether or not Avalanche is a fork of Ethereum. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, pretty much. Guys are copy pasting pieces of the Avalanche codes and the Ethereum, this get it thing, and they are comparing. They're saying, hey, your updates of Avalanche, they're saying it's so innovative. It's just a copy of what we already have on GitHub. Forget it.
It's exactly what it is, right? There's no way around it. It's an EVM chain. They are cloning the EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine. That's what that's what they've cloned. That's what their chain is built on. So, there's really no debate there. It is what it is.
Yeah. Ultimately, for a blockchain to scale, like EVM copy, like Avalanche or a BSC, these chains, they all need developers before users, right?
Absolutely.
If they don't have developers, they cannot scale the chain. Like we're seeing in Cardano, for example, they don't have as much developers because they have to learn a new language, and
you have no ecosystem, right? Any jackass can go and fork a block. I can teach you how to go to GitHub right now and fork Ethereum in 30 minutes, and you can have your own EVM fork that you can run yourself. But if you don't have developers there to actually build shit out for you and build your ecosystem, your Uniswaps, your Aves, your compounds, then you've got nothing, right? You've got a ghost chain.
So what's the point for all these forks? Like we're seeing Harmony One, we're seeing I don't know, so much other Oasis and a bunch of Avalanche, a bunch of EVM forks. What are their goals? What do they want? They want to be like I don't know.
I wouldn't lump them all into the same, into the same cash grab pot, because that's certainly not true. There are chains out there that, the original purpose, right, was to fork Ethereum so that you can experiment, right? So that you can build something cool that doesn't cost you, $1,000 in gas. So that's kind of the original point, and not unlike any other test net out there. And some of these chains like Harmony, they were really experimenting early on with this new proof of stake model that actually Ethereum is going to end up, inheriting. So there's innovation happening on these EVM forks. And it's, at the end of the day, I always just kind of look at them as builders experimenting, getting ready they're testing something at scale to see if it works. And then if it works, then shit, time to go to mainnet. I think they're all just, I tend to think of them all as just a means to an end, right? They're experimenting to eventually end up on mainnet, or, maybe eventually a layer 2 solution.
Yeah, that's what I wonder. Instead of them creating a new blockchain and trying to build an ecosystem there, like bringing developers, bringing new users, why not just experiment and then be here in the Ethereum security, be a roll-up or something like that? Why do you need to compete with Ethereum? You're not only competing with Ethereum, but you're competing with all other forks and other blockchains out there. So I don't know. I seem to be really, really hard for these new blockchains to scale massively, like in the future. I don't think that's going to happen. But like I say, who I know, like Hero just mentioned, gave an example about cars, and it seems to be like that's what's going to happen though. People are just going to be like, okay, this is cheap one. Okay, let's use that one. But eventually there's going to be a security problem, right? If there's a security problem, people will probably migrate it away from this other blockchain. So
I just don't know, like part of me totally agrees with you, Gelfi, but then I think about Solana, right? And, even though it's had, relatively substantial downtime and its more recent popularity, it's still busy. I mean, there are still a ton of NFT projects built on it. They do have, of course, some DeFi protocols on it. It's not unused, right? And it's not even unloved.
Can nation states go to Solana and stop it? Can United States go, hey, Solana, stop it. I don't want you to run anymore. Can they do that?
I don't know how, I just don't know how this, we all know that it's more centralized, by many factors than some of the other chains, I don't know that it's so centralized and be shut down, but that's just because I don't know. I mean, what does it mean? I mean, it's still, distributed and decentralized to some extent, right? I mean, it's not like you'd walk into one server farm and flip a switch, I don't think. So it's a curious question, right? I mean, like, it's without question, you're not shutting down Ethereum, you're not shutting down Bitcoin, but I don't think you're shutting down Avalanche either, So, again, I don't know, like, where is the literature on this stuff? How do you measure degrees of decentralization, and what does that really mean, right? I mean, we've talked a lot. I've ranted a lot about my fear that over time Ethereum becomes centralized, right? But how do you where are the metrics to be able to quantify what centralized or decentralized is? And
I think the measure is validators.
And the measure, so the measure is validators, right?
Yep, validator nodes. Always has been, always will be.
Right. And so then if you are going back to things like Avalanche or Solana, I mean, they still run off of nodes and validators, right? Mm-hmm. They're just less of them. And so
there's less of them because they're more intensive to run, right? They require much stronger computers and stuff to run. Unlike, things like Bitcoin that can be run on a damn Raspberry Pi, or Ethereum that can be run on a laptop.
But actually, Avalanche you can run on Raspberry Pi. There's some tutorials showing you. Yeah,
that's the EVM compatibility, though, right?
Well, but it sounds like you still can. So, like, and you can't run Solana on Raspberry Pi, right?
No.
So, like. And the Solana Foundation controls what percent of the nodes.
And that's right. the great secondary question of not only how many nodes are there, but who is also running these nodes.
Right. And so those are, I just don't know how to find the answers to those questions. I'm sure I know there are people that do.
Yeah. And to your question, to answer your question, Solana, I think last I checked has over 1,000 validators. So they are, you could make the argument that they are decentralized enough. And I think that they would. I
heard at one point, like, something like 60+% is really controlled by the foundation.
That could be true.
And I have no idea, right? So, it's just like, I think about this stuff and going, this is really interesting versus Bitcoin, which has probably more validators than any of them, right?
Right. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So, no one really argues that it's not the most decentralized chain. Maybe there's something, maybe at some point, and this goes back again to another conversation we had, is like, is it more secure to have a chain that, like, if Ethereum, if the China chain, when we merge from Beacon, I'm making stuff up, obviously, but there's something that allows you to, stake and validate with 1 ETH, right? And then you have 300 million people staking 1 ETH versus, 1 million people staking 32 ETH, right? And how does that interplay with security? And I still don't have a good understanding of that, and it's sort of where that metric is, that matrix is, the
interesting thing about that, Hero, is that we're just not going to know until we get there, right? That's one of those things that the Ethereum developers can never know until we get it out in the wild, until we scale it. And that is one of the scary things that we do have to really consider as we move forward, as we inch closer to the merge, right? Because now it's all becoming very real. The dates are beginning, the stars are beginning to line, and, it could all go tits up. We would be fooling ourselves to not at least make that a possibility in our minds. I don't think it will. I think on paper it all seems like it's going to work, but until we get it out in the wild and scale this thing, we're not going to know.
I was laughing the other day when I was writing that story on the merge, and the Kiln testnet, and as a longtime potter, I think, well, that's not a really good sort of allegory for the merge final testnet, right? Everything goes and burns to ashes,
It's because we got to harden it, Hero. That's what it is. We got to harden it.
And that's the truth, right? So like when you use a kiln, right, you bake it at, depending on what you're doing, at a various temperature to make it so that it's, more, arguably more secure and more stable, and it loses, but it also loses some of its malleability, right? And its flexibility. So once it's gone through a kiln. So I was going, geez, but like, there's no part on the Ethereum long-term roadmap where they're talking about, reducing the 32 number down, I don't think, right? And this might be an interesting place to bring in sharding, right? So like, if we go and look at the roadmap and we look at sharding in 2023 or 2024, whatever the dream is, what do we think that sharding will do to the network? I mean, does that become a built-in layer? I mean, like essentially a built-in layer 2? Is it supposed to make it so that transactions are going to be cheaper, or is it really just a further layer of decentralization?
I think it'll have both effects, right? I think the goal for it is just a level of decentralization, right? But it'll have the side effect of bringing down gas fees just because the network itself won't be so congested. And we've kind of seen some of that already play out with our layer 2s. You could definitely say, and I don't have a gas chart in front of me, but I'm sure that if we did, that it would be clear that gas fees have certainly gone down since our arbitrums and our optimisms have gone live. Not nearly as much as we would like, but they have certainly gone down some. It's taken some of the pressure off of mainnet. Same with Polygon, right? You could say that all these other layer 1s and even side chains and such have helped to contribute to take some of the pressure off of mainnet.
That's interesting, right? Because like as those layer 2 and side chains deployed, last fall, last spring, and in some cases a little bit earlier, you really had like peak usage, right? And so I think what Ethereum probably saw peak usage sometime around December-ish, right? Of 2021. And, right as soon as you had Arbitrum and Opti kind of, getting their legs under them, those both launched in September.
Mm-hmm.
And then now, of course, demand's dropped off. I paid $37 in gas the other day to mint something. It was like, it was like so exciting, right? I mean, we remember what it's like to pay, 220 USD equivalent just to do a transaction, and at the time, it seemed like, okay, this sucks, but it's not going to stop me, But then you're literally talking about an eighth of the cost, right? To do that now, and it after paying so much, it feels so good to pay so little, and that's still a ton compared to what what does it cost? Of course, on Poly, we joke that it costs fractions of a cent. Opti's a little more, but not much. I mean, it's 1/80th or something of the cost to mint on Ethereum on any given day, right? And
I think on my worst day on Polygon, I spent $1, one whole $1, and I was pissed.
Sunflower farmers. So, I mean, Gelfi and Diego, I know you guys have thoughts about these things. What do you think?
I was really excited with the lower gas fees. I just minted a bunch of DAI last week just to use it, because they were so cheap. But yeah, I understand what you say, especially with for artists. I mean, a lot of projects of NFT projects that I like the artists and I like the art, I like the piece, but I didn't buy because it wouldn't make any sense to pay more on the fees than I would pay for the art, And now that it's cheaper, I don't think twice in this case. But
I love when Ethereum is cheap. I mean, you have all these farming rewards that, it's like $200 rewards that otherwise, if the gas was higher, it would cost you like $150 to get $200. So I took that time when the gas are low now to get all my rewards, and yeah, it was a fun time.
Doesn't it really just fall into the category though? Be careful what you wish for, right? So many people spent so much of this last bull run bitching about gas fees on Ethereum.
Yeah.
Well, if you want gas fees to come down, that's going to have a really unfortunate side effect of your ETH price coming down as well, because what that directly means is that people don't give a shit about Ethereum, right? When we have Gwei down below 20, that means there's nobody using the network, and that should worry us. So, yeah, bit of a double-edged sword when it comes to the old gas fees.
That's temporary. I think gas went down because of NFTs. NFTs are.
The gas went down because the markets exploded, right? Everyone got completely wrecked.
Yeah.
I mean, especially the NFT market.
Everybody was afraid to do.
It was a ghost town around here for a while.
Hey guys, this is an interesting trend. I want to transition here, a little bit to something. And so, gas fees go down, gas fees go up. Gas fees go down. I forgot what I was going to say. I'm sorry, guys. I had a good thought for a minute, but I totally lost it. Oh, I remember. Oh, go ahead, Diego.
I can. No, I would say it's good. I don't mind if people are afraid that there's not so many people using Ethereum right now, because if the gas fees are are low, you can use more, paying less. So, and now these fees are gonna get burned. Doesn't matter how much it goes the fees, in dollars. If it's in it, they are getting being burned, and it's good for the ecosystem. So even when I pay, it's never a problem to pay for gas fees. When it's cheap, you can use more, do more stuff. When it's expensive, you just paying the gas fees, but part of that's gonna be burned, and it's gonna be good for the ecosystem, and it's just the way you're gonna see. You can complain that it's expensive, or you're gonna say, oh, let's burn it.
I love you. Like, that's so true. Do you have an Ethereum tattoo yet on your somewhere?
Not yet. Can believe that.
No, I know.
But I was, but I was with a shirt yesterday.
I went to Diego.
I got an idea. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna mint 100 NFTs. We're gonna randomize them, and then whoever mints the 100th one, and it's gonna be different. It's gonna be an Ethereum symbol on different parts of your body. And whoever mints the 100th one, that's where you have to get the tattoo. So
that's interesting.
We got the plan.
No, I don't like these games.
we'll let your face be on.
But I was. If I was a rapper, of course I would have like that teary eye, but with an Ethereum tattoo here.
Hey, one thing I like about the gas is that when they're low, or maybe when Ethereum is low, like Bear Hunter just say, when gas fees are down, the price of Ethereum goes down. Then that's when I check fees.wtf. That's exactly when I check how much I spend on gas, because otherwise, when Ethereum is up, the price, when you check there, oh, I have spent about 3 Ethereums now. What the heck? That's, I don't know,
totally
$50,000. But now it's less. So
it makes me feel better, doesn't it? So this is what I wanted to bring up earlier, because I don't think we've ever talked about it, is like miner extractable value, right? And so can we talk about the interplay between gas prices, blockchain activity, network congestion, and MEV?
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up. And I'm glad you said it the way you did, because it's really not miner extracted value, right? It's maximum extracted value, meaning that it's not just miners that can extract value from the blockchain. It's anybody, right? It's what it really means is anybody that can find, what's the right word? I'm going to call it what it is, an exploit in the chain. And it needs to be done, right? It's for the health of the network. An example would be front running some Flashbots front running trades on Uniswap, for example, right? Getting in there, buying Ethereum before you do, and then selling it to you at the price that you've put in that you're willing to pay for it, right? And filling that order. So it can be done in many, many different ways. Liquidating people on Aave, right? That's another form of MEV that people have to do. Otherwise, Aave protocol goes to shit, right? That's built into the protocol as an incentive to always ensure that that Aave protocol stays in balance, if that makes sense. You've got to have the other side of the trade, right? Somebody has to come in and liquidate someone's position when they're out of bounds, right, or offsides. So yeah, but to your point, miner extracted value. Miners at this point also have their version of extracting value from the chain, and it also involves front running transactions, among other things that you could do. There are many different ways to extract value from any chain, not just Ethereum. And again, as bad of a taste as it leaves in our mouths when we hear about some of these stories with MEV, it's always for the health of the network, right? Because if we didn't have these things, then the flip side of that would be then you have a network that's just running rampant and double spending that's happening everywhere, and positions that aren't getting smoked out, right? So we have to have it. It's one of those, it's like a necessary evil, I would say.
This is such an interesting thought, So you're saying essentially, this is great, right? Like you have to exploit the network in order for the network to be healthy. You have to find all the inefficiencies and destroy them. Very, very strongly free market of you. What do you guys think, Diego? Gelfi?
I didn't get what Bear Hunter was explaining. I can understand that the maximum value extraction, it's a kind of crazy thing for me so far.
So, Mr. Diego, the easiest way to think about it, right? At any given time in any blockchain, there's always going to be some exploit that can be done that somebody somewhere can profit from if you have the skill set and the knowledge to know how to do it. The best example are the flash loan attacks, right? There was a string of events there, over the fall, right, where it seemed like just one flash loan attack after another. Those are exploits that are happening on chain because somebody somewhere either didn't do their due diligence, right, and someone somewhere was offsides, and then the bots come in, some more savvy developer comes in, finds the exploit, and seals the hole up, right? By doing that exploit, it then seals itself up. It really gets into the whole anti-fragility of these networks too, right? When one of these exploits happen, when an MEV happens, the network then begins to repair it, right, to keep it from happening again. So
yeah, that's something that needs to happen in order for the network to fix itself and get more. Otherwise people are just going to be afraid to come in. And okay, if I go in, I can lose. Network can be hacked and lost. So that comes to security. So it needs to happen in order for the network to improve, I guess.
Well,
here's an example of one of these things.
Just real quick, explain to me why it helps network health.
Because it keeps it from happening again, right? These are self-repairing. It's self-repairing technology. So let's see. Let's think of an example here. Right. So let's use the stock market as an example, right? When inefficiencies happen in the stock market, when people are offsides in the stock market, what happens? The market makers have to go and also, much like we see in the blockchain, they go and liquidate positions, right? Or like we saw with the GameStop situation, they just shut everything down, right? You have that middleman there to always make sure that the health of the market stays healthy. Does that make sense?
I mean, I understand it in the fiat world. I just don't understand it in the blockchain world.
Well, you have to have that same mechanism in the blockchain world as well, right? There has to be some mechanism in place that always ensures the health of the network. And that's
health of network, though. Do you mean health of the network or health of the sort of the economic network of it?
I mean the health of the network as a whole.
You mean
because they go hand in hand, Hero. If the economic part of it fails, then the whole damn thing fails, right?
Oh, fair. But I'm just wondering what kind of, when you're using that terminology, if they're just interchangeable and or if they're not, because I just really don't know. Like I understand enough about MEV to know I kind of get it, but don't.
Okay, let me try to simplify it here. So I'm going to go back to the GameStop situation. If Wall Street hadn't shut down trading with GameStop, the entire stock market would have imploded, right? Because there was an infinite money glitch that the Redditors found, right? If they hadn't shut everything down, the entire stock market would have failed. Same concept in the blockchain world. So if someone out there finds an exploit that allows them to do a double spend, for example, they found an exploit. Now they're just printing money out of thin air. They're printing themselves millions of dollars. If some other person doesn't come in, well, no. Because of that, some other person will then come in and fix that exploit that person found to print themselves millions of dollars, right?
Well, my impression was, though, the MEV wasn't used to stop those kinds of like double spend exploits you see sometimes. It was more like,
well, it's an
arbitrage type thing, right?
And it is, right? Arbitrage is another example of it. MEV is an umbrella, right? There are many. That's what I was trying to say earlier. There are many different kinds of extractable value. That's why it's better to call it maximum extracted value, not minor, because there are many ways to extract value from a network, right?
And
all of them are necessary.
I Googled it because then I realized like somewhere along the line they changed minor to maximum, which I missed that change in the definition of MEV, which is interesting.
Well, it's because it's more apt, right? It explains it better. Because again, it's not just miners that can extract value from the network; it's anybody.
So let's talk about this then. Like, so like flash bots, right? Like I want to go front run somebody with these, and I want to grab the 10 NFTs, before they do. And so I pay flash bots, some fee to go front run, right? And then it's front run, and then they look for the right opportunity for that front run. My thought was, or my understanding was, if they just had the technology in place to be able to get the block confirmed ahead of the person using more gas or like whatever was required, right? I don't understand.
That's what a miner would do, right? A miner would front run that transaction.
Is that not how Flashbot works too, though? Is it different?
Well, there are many. There's also, when you say Flashbots, there's actually, there's actually a whole package of them, and each one of them does a very different thing. So there are. I think in the example you used, you were actually referring to just a bot that goes and actually front runs and mints NFTs before everybody else, right?
Or a human who touches the go button or something. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So that's actually a very different kind of exploit, but. Yeah, point taken, right? So I'm glad you brought up arbitrage because that's actually the most important one when we're talking about the health of the network, right?
But that's how I think about it too, is like arbitrage for me makes sense for health of the network, right? And especially in terms of that sort of what we're trying to do on the chain. But the rest of them, I have a hard time understanding how they help the network health.
So it just depends on the use case. And at the end of the day, not all of them are there for network health, right? Some of them are absolutely there for nefarious purposes, and they're trying to extract value for nefarious reasons. But again, the side effect of that is that anti-fragility and the self-healing technology, right? Where developers will come in behind that asshole that exploited the network and patch it and fix it and ensure that it can't happen again. And then that asshole that exploited the network has to go find a new way to, exploit it.
Okay, so like, I know that we're really in the weeds now, but this is like so fascinating. I could do it forever because this is how I learn, right? And so like, I'm sorry for doing this, guys, but one more question. Fine. But it's not like when someone goes and quote unquote repairs the network or the network gets, rebalanced, that is there a code? They're like not recoding part of it. So what are they doing to actually repair it? Just rebalancing the economic incentives?
It depends on the exploit, right? And it depends on what had happened. So if it's, if we're talking about something like a massive exploit on Ethereum, right, that can't be undone, well, then shit, now we're talking about a hard fork, right? Now we got to get a whole new blockchain spun up because something terrible's happened. But when we get that new blockchain spun up, it will inevitably have some sort of patch of coding in there that will prevent what happened before from happening again, much like the fork from Ethereum Classic to the Ethereum we know now.
But only with hard forks, right? That's the only time that new code gets introduced.
Right. Well, yeah. First, yeah.
I mean, technically, I think that's true, not with soft forks. So that's the truth. I mean, the truth is, like, I sold all of my ETH the other day just for ETH Classic, right? Because I like Classic Coke better than New Coke, I thought that was fine. So good luck for me.
No. Wait, say that again. You sold all your ETH.
I'm just joking. I'm just joking about Coke Classic and New Coke, But anyway, sorry, guys. I have to run in 5 because we actually have to be physically in human space somewhere in an hour. So what should we chat about for 5 minutes that you'd like to, Gelfi, as leader of our Distracted Tribe?
Actually, we can wrap this thing up. I mean, you brought up good points on this podcast, and there is so much more. There's
Maybe
so much more to talk about.
We should spend 5 minutes talking about Good Morning News. Just saying.
That's kind of what I was saying.
Yeah. We can talk about
Good Morning
guys.
News.
I have a lot more questions for Hero. Like I wrote it down a bunch of questions here, but we're gonna save up for the next episode because Hero has some. You
wrote questions for me. Ask me one question. I'm so curious.
Don't forget that Monday we're going to get you on the Bankless Brazil podcast, and that's going to be really awesome. We're going to interview you and get to know your background, get to know your life behind crypto.
What's going to be really interesting is I'm going to give that interview in Portuguese. One day, guys, I promise. One day, Don't
worry, we're gonna have subtitles, people are gonna understand you effectively. But anyway,
I have a
guys,
hard enough time speaking English.
But anyways, whose turn is it to convince people to come to GMN?
I can do it. I've been doing this all week in Ethereum Rio. So hey guys, here we have the most innovative project that is happening in Web3 space. We got the best people you can find in this space, and we are doing something revolutionary here. So we deliver the news in a decentralized way in an NFT that you can update every day and you get your news every day directly on your wallet. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, doesn't matter if the government can censor the news, you're gonna get the best news we can deliver every single day. And it only costs you 11 MATIC for a lifetime subscription, and you have access to our community. And even if you don't buy the NFT, just come here, join us on our Discord, and join our community. We would love to have you here.
Well said, Mr. Diego. And also, is there any other project out there that has a donut shop in it? Pet store? I don't think so. So that's why you should join GMN to figure that out.
Yeah, I love it. It's so true. It's so true. And it occurred to me too, like, it's actually not a lifetime subscription. It's actually longer than that. And so it doesn't really matter who dies. You'll always have a subscription as long as you have the NFT. So anyway, sorry, that maybe was a bit morbid for a Saturday, but
I thought it was perfect. I thought you hit the nail on the head, buddy. Long after we're dead and gone, somebody somewhere will still have a subscription, right?
It is so true. I would like to remind everyone that what you hear today is not financial advice, investment advice. It's not any advice of any kind. It is for people, for chippies, actually chatting somewhere in the metaverse across our fine globe. So please do not take anything we say seriously, and definitely don't do anything with your money based upon the words coming out of our chippy's mouth.
Awesome, guys. Thank you very much. And I'll see you guys next time.
Bye, everybody.
Cheers, friends.